In episode 6 of Helluva Boss, we got a glimpse at Blitz's phone, as well as the apps on it, and while I've seen quite a bit of discussion on it already, I thought it wasn't too late for me to throw in my interpretation of these demonic hellphone apps and their uses. Now, the apps are interesting because most of them are not just a tool for a specific purpose, but also a reference to other characters in the universe, most notably the 7 deadly princes, as well as at least one overlord. The easiest app to talk about is of course the Maps app, which shows Hell as the 7 rings stacked on top of each other. In addition to having the general geography of each of these rings, it likely has a lot of information on transport between the rings, such as the elevator system we saw in episode 7 that took the characters from the Pride ring to the Lust ring. Each of these rings are of course ruled over by one of the 7 princes, who each have their own apps. The most mysterious of these is none other than Lucifer's apps, which shows his trademark apple, with an L and an M in it, with those initials being written as a snake. I've seen no confirmation on what this app is yet, but because of the apple, I have seen some theorists claim that it is a grocery app. This is a bit of a weird one for me, as there's no reason to think that Lucifer is in charge of, or even interested in the agricultural business. This seems to be handled largely by the Imps of the Wrath Ring, as we learned in episode 5, with the Harvest Moon Festival celebrating their work. The general native-born demons of hell need this food most of all, and while sinners may get food from the imps too, the sinners are immortal and presumably could survive starving indefinitely, however painful that may be. With the sinners being restricted to the Pride Ring, groceries just doesn't seem right, but I don't really know any other theories other than perhaps it is an app meant to help service sinners in particular. While cell phones are a bit of a commodity in some parts of the world today, in others they are considered so essential that they are given out freely to those who cannot afford the latest models. Hell is mostly about enslaving its people to extract more wealth and resources out of the world to benefit the people at the top, and ultimately these cell phones become more of a tool for controlling the people than something that should be kept out of their hands, something that will be explored as we go deeper into these apps. With that in mind, this particular app may be designed specifically for sinners of the Pride Ring who live under Lucifer's rule. It could provide all sorts of resources, particularly those meant to connect you with your family. Hell is likely a large place, and as people die, they could manifest pretty much anywhere, separated by their family who died long before or who will die long after them. Having a database maintained by families where people can put in their information to get in touch with their parents who died before them or their children who will die after them would save a lot of problems in Hell, making it more easy to control their citizens and enslave them overall. Below Lucifer in the hierarchy of Hell is Satan, the Prince of the Wrath Ring, who comes with his own Satan workout app on the phone. As the Prince of Wrath, a lot of followers of his are imps, who seem to hold him in higher regard than the demons of other rings hold their own princes, with them revering Satan as something almost godlike in even the casual way they use his name. He would not lower himself to appear at the Harvest Moon Festival celebrating work as farmers, however, and like the imps, he seems to only care about violence and war. These workouts are meant to keep imps strong and ready for battle and violence, keeping them fit for the various war-based jobs that they discussed in episode 5. Below Satan in the Wrath Ring is Beelzebub in the Gluttony Ring. What little we see of the Gluttony Ring comes from promos for the currently delayed 8th episode of Season 1, which will now be aired as a special sometimes in Season 2. This Season 2 special showed a hellhound party at a fancy building with a yellow sky in the background, with lots of beehive architecture as well. All of these seem to be inspired by the bee and Beelzebub, with the honey this ring produces becoming the mead we see Vraska drinking in episode 3 called Beelzejuice. Instead of an app just for this demonic beverage, however, it has a more generic gluttony theme by being just Bee Eats. If Lucifer's app is for groceries, this one seems to be more for fast food, and I imagine Beelze, as Moxie calls her, has establishments all over the 7 rings for delivering the grossest of delicious foods by app. Below Beelzebub in the Gluttony Ring is Mammon in the Greed Ring. Mammon's goal seems to be to extract as much wealth from the citizens of Hell that he can, without any interest in the actual resources that may back that wealth. As long as stacks of cash come in, that is all that matters to him. His app is called the Moneymaker Bank app, making it likely an app designed to get people to put in their wealth for general banking reasons, but to extract as much of it as possible through taxes, fees, and as the name suggests, money-making schemes. Many of these are likely investments, with most of the stocks and such available being in Mammon's companies, inflating his worth higher and higher. Mammon seems to be in charge of the currency of Hell called souls, with his image and name being printed on the money. Yet he also seems desperate to have as much of the money as possible, instead of having it in circulation throughout Hell. As said before, his desire for the actual material resources that have value with this currency is likely of little interest to him, and his fixation is on the growth of the money itself. The investment systems and banks he has in place are probably rigged to keep the money printing into his hands, with the consequence being that the lower class's existing wealth becomes worth less, accounting for a smaller percentage of the wealth that exists overall, with Mammon hoarding more and more that he gets from the lower level demons through his economy, rigged just so slightly in his favor so that every little transaction brings all of hell one step closer to being financially owned by Mammon, each demon being ripped off just enough each time to be losing a bit more of their own freedom, but not enough for them to actually fight back in the moment. Below Mammon in the Greed Ring would be Asmodeus in the Lust Ring, with his app being Lust Tinder, a play on the dating app Tinder. Lust as a sin can take many different forms, and Asmodeus as the Prince of Lust is just one example of how it can play out, in contrast to Valentino in the Pride Ring. Asmodeus enjoys lust more than greed, and while his system in the Lust Ring and even his apps on phones are likely still profitable, they are meant to encourage promiscuity among the demons of hell and to help them find each other in order to do that, it would seem, as the goal is to make people enjoy lustful debauchery. Valentino, on the other hand, is an overlord in the Pride Ring who creates adult films, such as the ones Angel stars in. While he is a lust-themed character, greed seems to be of greater importance to him, and his goals are to enslave the masses through adult films, something done much easier when the citizens of hell are unable to find sexual pleasure with a partner. As such, they are rivals in a way, fighting for a very different idea of what lust in hell should look like, but their businesses likely inspire a healthy competition overall that keeps hell balanced, not having people succumb to just one of these demons' ideas of lust to a fault. At least not more so than usual in hell, as both have very serious and negative consequences, but more on that in an upcoming video about these two characters. Below Asmodeus in the Lust Ring is Leviathan in the Envy Ring, who has the Envy app. This app seems to be a generic social media app themed particularly after TikTok, as opposed to Instagram, which has its own app on the phone called Sinstagram. The Envy app shows a broken heart with clashing facial expressions, really capturing the idea of social media apps, pushing the idea of likes and love with its heart icons, but still managing to breed systems that make people feel sad, inadequate, and of course, envious of the people they see not just getting more of those heart-shaped likes, but the cool things they get to do that the other people are reacting to with those likes. Below Leviathan in the Envy Ring is Belgore in the Sloth Ring, the only prince without an explicit app. There is an app for sleeping pills, however, which seems to be an obvious reference to the Sloth Ring, whose capital we know to be called Dreamville from their Veroska Band t-shirt once available at the Helluva Boss merchandise store, which showed prominent cities in each ring. In recent episodes, we also see Stolas taking some happy pills that seem to come from Belgore. Both these pills and more are likely available through the app, and while I have fun theories about the many different ways that the Sloth Ring in particular may appear in the show, the primary contribution they have to the app seems to be these pills, the sleeping pills in particular. With such easy app ordering access, much of hell is likely kept not just docile, but also addicted thanks to these pills. A prince like Stolas went from one to many pills at a time, and the lower level natives likely get easily hooked to cope with how horrible hell is. Outside of the 7 princes, we also have an interesting app called Be Artsy, perhaps a reference to Baal, a demon talked about in several real-life writings, including the Ars Goetia, where he is a king on the same level as Paimon. Additionally, we have Wackdonald's, which I don't think is a McDonald's parallel, but actually an app for Wacky Wally, one where you can submit your crazy ideas and such for him to try and rip you off on. There is also Vox Flicks, an in-world version of Netflix run by the overlord Vox. In a lot of early posts in the Has-Been Hotel Instagram accounts, there were consistent references to characters trying to find something on Voxtagram to watch each night, all seemingly addicted to checking for new shows, but never really feeling like they would find anything good. This, like all of the other apps, are just echoes of our real-life culture and where some of the Has-Been Hotel and Helluva Boss writers seem to think it's all going. With there being a flood of content so big, it's hard for us to choose between any new shows coming out, with our attention spans also being burned out quite a bit, making it hard for us to enjoy it when there is good content. But with good content hard to find amongst the many strangely specific yet somehow entirely generic TV shows. But at least cartoons are doing pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of them. In addition to great shows like Helluva Boss, we also are now getting great shows like Pantheon from AMC+, which is something that I don't think enough people are aware of right now, so click here to check out a video of me reviewing episode 1 and 2 to see if you should check out the series for yourself. See you guys next time.